Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Detour. As always, joined by four-time national road champion Johnny Trevorrow, who's not even paying attention, and Olympic gold medalist Scott McGrory. Fellas, I'll start with you, Scotty. Aussie, Ben O'Connor, sensational victory, talking him up to Matt White yesterday. Whitey said, nah, we're full. We don't have any more lists available. I mean, do we need to start a hashtag campaign? What are we got to do to get this man a contract?
Contract for Ben O'Connor. How good was that? And it wasn't just the fact that he won the stage, which obviously was great, but he was second the day before, been in the breakaway all day. And my concern when we were talking about who are up for the stage, our tips from yesterday, I thought, well, probably unlikely for Ben because, a big day in the break. But no, went in the break again on another big mountain stage and come away with the win. So well-deserved, fantastic, and hopefully some teams come a knocking.
Johnny, you know people that own teams. Surely you've got some sway.
I find it very hard to believe that he doesn't get snaffled by somebody. I don't think we'll have to have much of a campaign because I'll tell you what, he's 24. It's the third week of a very, very hard Grand Tour, and he's done that. Takes class to do that 2 days in a row. He looked the strongest the day before, and he had to do a big effort to get across, and that. He paid for that. But to come out the next day and do that, I'll tell you, that it was a sensational ride. And he's too good not to be in the World Tour.
Well, here's Ben Connor. We can play his post-race interview at the Giro.
Yeah, yesterday was so close. And to pull it off today in the mountains that I dream of, it's, maybe hasn't sunk in yet, but when I crossed the line, I was full gas crying, so it means a lot.
8.5 kilometers to go. Was that a plan to attack there?
No, but I could see everyone was really struggling at the time. There was no real pace between the guys, and everyone was kind of looking at each other. And I felt good again, so I thought, why not? If someone joins me, then we swap, and then I would try and go again. But the aim was just to win today, and I just can't believe I've done it.
At some stage, have you decided that your team was going for stage wins instead of just looking after Pozzo Vivo?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday wasn't the plan to be in a break at all, but when there's 30 guys, you have to be there. Today, the plan was to be in the break, and if a team decides to come and chase us, then we're there up front for Domenico, and then we can play our cards. It's always a win-win situation. And for the three of us to be up there, it really helped, so we could share the load, I guess, a little bit. So in the end, it was a perfect day.
Well done, mate.
Thanks, man.
Unbelievable. And as you said, if you in the last week to have the kahunas to back yourself and just go for it, geez, that shows some class, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
What do we know about Ben, Scotty?
Very, as you can hear, very well spoken, mild-mannered young man. Came through the National Road Series, in the early years, like everybody else. That's first contract in the pros was with NTT, Dimension Data before, as it was named, which was one of the challenging things because he hadn't been to other teams, and with this one probably folding, they find another sponsor in this last month. Really, I don't know. We don't know what the behind the scenes situation is, but we haven't heard anything about a replacement sponsor coming in. The riders at some point will all be getting told that you're in or you're out kind of thing. So he hasn't got those contacts, I guess, with other teams that he may have ridden for previously to go back to and jump on board with. But look, just a great young guy. He can do a reasonable time trial. Obviously, a great climber. And still only 24, so he's got a big future if someone will definitely pick him up. And your point, John, about it being stage 17 of the Giro, it's been a challenging year, training, preparation. You throw all of that into it. The Giro is well known as one of the toughest of the three Grand Tours, if not the toughest, typically every year. To have that kind of form after 2.5 weeks of racing, that's extraordinary.
Well, we've got another guest, Matt Wilson, who's at the Tour of Spain. Matty, how are you travelling, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, guys. Stage 3 this morning. It's been an action-packed first couple of days, so looking forward to getting stage 3 on.
How's our Colombian kangaroo going? He looks to have good legs early on in this Tour of Spain, mate.
He does. He's looking looking fantastic the last couple of days. So boys are all super motivated by it, and look, he's going to have plenty of chances in this tour, that's for sure.
So what time, you've been getting early starts. What time do you start today?
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. It's been
Okay.
around that time the last couple of days.
Yeah, but that's equivalent to about 8 a.m. in Spain. They're not early risers. Is it a different feel to the Tour of Spain? Obviously, starting midway through October, and with all the crowd restrictions and so forth. What's the vibe like there on the ground?
Yeah, very similar to the rest of the year, I guess. Keeping most of the crowds away, very locked down. So it is what it is. You take it. We're happy just to be out here racing, really. But from what I've seen, so far, what they're doing here at the Vuelta, it's pretty impressive. They've even taken, the level of the security and the protocols up another level from the Tour de France.
In what way have they done that?
Just seems to be more strict around crowds, more strict around certain protocols. I mean, like even sign-on, they're doing that by facial recognition, so that no one has to pick up a pen. So just removing more of those contact points. The hotels have curfews, so people can't eat in restaurants past certain times, which, like you mentioned in Spain, when you say they can't eat dinner after 10 o'clock, everyone freaks out. But, it is what it is. Guys having to eat their dinner in their rooms, stuff like that. So it's been taken very seriously here.
How is it having Julian Dean on the ground there? I read an article that Esteban was talking about. It was all about knowing that Movistar particularly knew that course and knew when they were going to attack, and to really focus on those sort of guys and just giving the calm directions to the troops. It must be pretty good to have Jules, captain of the ship, there as well.
Yeah, it's great. I've not done a race with Julian before where he's been the main guy on the radio. So no, he's fantastic, very calm, very level-headed. Doesn't get emotionally invested in as far as communication goes anyway. So no, he's a good influence.
Whitey, brutal start to a Grand Tour though.
It's Wilson.
3 days. Oh, sorry.
Got the Matt.
Matt, sorry.
Like the basketball, mate. Wilson,
Hey, the first 3 days, brutal start to a Grand Tour, mate.
Yeah, it is. Look, the climbs aren't that big, and may look a bit more epic than what it actually is. But the way that the teams are coming out and racing these first few stages is super impressive. No one's leaving anything behind, that's for sure.
And how are you going, Matty? We've talked often about the cyclists, and a few guys have been sort of struggling a bit with the interruptions to the gear, and it's getting later and later, obviously. But being away from home, particularly the young family, how are you holding up through this whole process?
Yeah, look, it's definitely tough. But it's you're there.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
It's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult for everyone. So it's tough on me. It's tough on the family. It's not perfect for anyone at the moment.
At least the Wi-Fi is pretty good in Spain, so there'll be a lot of FaceTimes. There'll be a lot of interactions with that. How do the kids go on FaceTime?
They don't love it. I'll be honest. They get pretty bored pretty quickly, and then just start playing games on the phone or something. And or they'll just fight over it. But you get by, get good moments.
All right, looking at the stage profile, mate, it's not easy. That's typical for Vuelta. As the guy said, this first week's pretty filthy. What are you expecting today?
Look, that profile's not really consistent with the reality out on the road. Definitely looks harder than what it is. I actually drove this stage about 5 days ago, so. But yeah, look, it's an interesting stage. The final climb isn't super tough, but the last kilometre is. So, look, it could be the first day that a breakaway sticks, but we'll see. Depends on how these other teams want to race it.
Good stuff. Anything you want to add, boys?
Yeah, it's been interesting so far with only 2 days down. that so many of the guys who we thought would be GC contenders are out of it. By my way of seeing, there's only 6 guys that you'd even look at in this bike race from here on in. But, Froome, we didn't know what would happen. But Pinot and Dumoulin surprised me. I thought he would be going better than that. So even Valverde, he's shown signs of cracking. I mean, I suppose he is getting past 40 now. So, but to me, Carapaz is obviously going to be the big challenge to Roglic, and I can't really see anyone racing those two, really. I mean, of course, we've got Carthy, Dan Martin, Esteban, all those guys are looking good, and there's young Mass, I'm very impressed with him, young Spaniard. But really, when it comes to winning this bike race, Roglic and Carapaz are sort of a step above everybody.
Yeah, I'd throw Mass in that mix as well. I think they're the 3 big favourites for the race. But yeah, you're right. Because of the way they've raced these first couple of days, it's strange to see. You already know who your favourites are to win pretty clearly after stage 2. So it's certainly a different experience.
Do you think, Matt? Do you think that actually helps the possibility of more breakaways getting up the road if they're all going to be focusing on each other in the GC so early on?
Yeah, I think so, and especially later in this tour when people start to get tired, teams start to get tired. Yeah, there's definitely guys are feeling in these last few days, could change the GC a lot.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for joining us, Matty. All the best for today. Hopefully the Colombian Kangaroo fires up. We've had some comments already. Jason Cruz says Esteban is looking lean and in good form, hoping for a great result for our Colombian Kangaroo. So he's got a lot of support back home, as do the rest of the boys, and hopefully it's a good day today.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Good on you, mate.
Thanks, Matty.
Cheers, Matt.
Cheers, mate. Matty Wilson, great to give us time on the detour on the way to the start of the Vuelta. You're right, Iffy. It's going to be hard to crack those 2 at the pointy end of the GC at the Vuelta, eh?
Yeah. I did have Dan Martin down in my list, but I couldn't read my own handwriting as usual. But he's actually looked very good. But I still can't see him winning this bike race. I can see him challenging for the podium, but I can't see him winning this bike race.
I agree. 3 riders from Jumbo in the top 10 at the moment after 2 days. It's
just on that, Andy Matthews says some talk that Sepp Kuss could potentially take over TJV leadership if Roglic is showing any signs of weakness. That's a big unknown, isn't it? Like how much taxing the Tour de France will be particularly in that final week.
Look, he's been outstanding. Well, from the Tour this year, and he's been outstanding in terms of the climbs, and he's looked good just in his first couple of days. So he sits now at 7th at 26 seconds. They're all in for Roglic. So it'll have to be something very dramatic, a crash or illness. I can't see Roglic cracking anytime soon. But if he slides down the road, for sure, there's Sepp Kuss if he's close enough.
All right, we've got to say a quick shout out to our regulars. Wendy Superfan, hi guys. Wasn't Ben's win awesome? Jenny Whitehin, good evening, everyone. Hey, our mate, Kieran Pender. Hi, everyone. Now, he came on the tour with you that year, Johnny. When was that, 2016?
He did, yeah. He's a very talented young journalist, writes for The Guardian, has written some cracking stories of late, and a fine young man.
You didn't say that on the episode that he didn't watch, though, John. It's only because you know that he's now watching. No,
that's right.
I didn't say the things that you guys said, but I think he's a cracking young man.
Kieran and I spent a lot of time in the National Road Series when he was working for Cycling Australia. So he was the correspondent for CA at a lot of the NRS races. So we had a lot of time in the car. I think he's still a bit scarred by that.
He's a good man. And Caroline. G'day, boys from Margaret River. Jeez, not a bad part of the world at the moment.
I have to get to Margaret River. I haven't been
really?
There. There's the event every year. You've got the mountain bike, the road race. There's a whole bunch of things that go on over there. Surfing, but I don't do that. I want to get there.
Well,
me too. I want to drink them dry. They're Margaret River Shiraz.
Yeah, but speaking of Shiraz, I think it's time, John. Open up the shoulders, mate. Mitchelton.
I might have to do it without my notes.
What?
I haven't got my notes. It's all right. I can handle it. I'm a big man.
All right, we'll start with a different photo.
Wow! Yes, that's the beautiful entrance to the cellar door. But Mitchelton Hotel, Mitchelton Winery is the place to go to in the beautiful Goulburn Valley, on the banks of the Goulburn River,
where you can practice social distancing at your weddings.
All of that. Most people like to get married. There's this wonderful setup for a wedding right on the banks. That's what these guys are about to walk up to that, which is just amazing. Of course, the beautiful Muse restaurant. That's a good view of the hotel there, which looks out over the river and then across to the Goulburn River. That's just a little insight into one of the suites, and they're absolutely glorious rooms. I think both of you guys have stayed there. That's the little waiting area next to the spa.
And if you want to go for dinner in your robe, no one will judge. It's in the Gambie.
It's where you can quiet the mind, unwind the body, rediscover your balance, as I've just rediscovered my script, and, in a setting of peace and harmony.
And don't forget the Aboriginal Art Gallery, John. Some fantastic pieces.
Down in the catacombs down below. It is world class. But you can experience the history, the beauty and the serenity of the Goulburn Valley when you go to the Mitchelton Hotel. And I love that Land Rover that you just showed the photo of. That is amazing. As I say, it's about a $10,000 Land Rover with about a $300,000 paint job.
Perfect.
It's gone up, I think, from yesterday.
Oh, well,
yeah,
maybe.
It goes up 50 grand every day.
Yeah. Buy it now, quick, before it goes up more.
All right, here's a quick word for our great mates at Bike Exchange.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match, but not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Fantastic ad, fantastic brand, Bike Exchange. Get amongst it. We've got some more comments. Good evening, gents. I haven't seen you out in the bike, Iffy. That's from Gary Tilley. What's been going on?
I was out today. I did a few loops and around the Belmont Criterium track with a few of the mates, and we had a coffee down at the Grumpy's Cafe. And we're having a special lunch tomorrow, because normally it's a Van Sank lunch, a famous lunch in Melbourne for about 1,000 people. So I normally take 4 or 5 guests from Geelong down to that lunch. So we're having the first ever Geelong chapter of the Van Sank Grand Final Eve lunch. 10 of us at my mate's hotel. Andrew Clark's got a hotel in Geelong with Billy Brownless, and they've given us the front room, maximum of 10 people, so it's 10 of us, and we're going to have our own Van Sank lunch.
Oh, good on you, John. That's going to be a bloody great day. And for those in Melbourne lockdown that can't do that, we're feeling for you.
John, can you explain, do you want to briefly explain what Van Sank is to the people that have no idea what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, it's a club that started with, Van Sank is French for 25. So the 25 guys, all league footballers actually, who used to catch up for lunch. Ian Mecca, famous cricketer, used to join a few of his mates. And so there was 25 of them. And so they said, let's call it something a bit more than just a club. Let's make it Van Sank 25, give it a bit of French culture. So it was very loose. It still is very loose.
Still is.
Then it got it got a bit more structure. Leon Uyghur come on and become the president. And now we have regular lunches. Scotty, you're one of the new members coming on the youth policy. Because most of it, I'm one of the youngest in the club, and I'm 71. But, blokes like Ronnie Barassi and Bobby Skilton, some legends of the game, and a handful of bike riders. Gordon Johnson, you and I think we're the bike riders of the club, Scotty. But
Shane Kelly. Shane Kelly's I think he's the youngest.
He's only come along once. I think we've sacked him by now. He's only ever been to one.
Oh, really?
We don't sack anyone, but he doesn't come. But anyway, but it's a great club, 50-something years old, and we have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and what happens in the club stays in the club. So there are several journalists in there as well, but nothing is ever written about what gets said in that club.
Yeah, but nothing that gets said in there is an issue, is it, Scott?
No, not of course, no.
Don't dig a ditch, mate. All right, now the segment that we all love is back.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Now, this would be perfect for you, Scotty, because it'll give you about 4 minutes to wolf down that Chinese that's just arrived.
No, well, that is the problem. I went to check because a notification popped up on my phone to rate my order. So I went outside thinking it had been dropped at the front door, and it's not there. So my Chinese that I have ordered...
Been nicked?
I wouldn't have been nicked, but I'm just wondering because I just ordered what I had a couple of days ago, just the same order, and just did that again. And now I'm a little bit concerned because I've had multiple addresses over the last 12 months. So maybe one of the other places I've been staying at just got a nice Chinese order. I don't know.
So it's not like the TV commercial. TV commercial, you talk about it and it turns up like 10 seconds later.
Yeah, well, I was talking about it to Dan before we went on air, and it hadn't turned up by then. And I've been looking for it, and it hasn't arrived.
Oh, that's classic. Yeah. Well, anyway, I was going to show the video last night, but it wasn't uploaded. It is uploaded tonight. This is the stage victory for Esteban Chavez in 2015, stage 2 of the Vuelta.
30.3 to go, and riders all over the deck.
Okay, guys, just make sure Esteban drives first. Make sure we're right here with Esteban, please. Big crash. I believe Esteban's okay, mate. I believe Esteban's okay.
So still really the people we were expecting up towards the front. Got a whole host actually of Europe car riders up there as well. So Gautier is one of the riders I managed to see there. Maybe Pierre Rolland is up there too.
Absolutely gorgeous bridges and walkways to the troglodytic area.
Hay que mantener el ritmo aquí hasta arriba. Mantener el ritmo, por favor. Mantenerlo allí.
Deciding that he wants to speed up a little bit earlier.
Roche stays on his tail, as you can see, and it's a real mix-up at the moment. So, here we go, another sub-attack.
Now that Quintana has upped the pace, here comes Chavez then from Orica Greeners straight past the rider from Eurocar, who I believe was Ramasicar. And is that Dan Martin from Cannondale-Garmin also making his way up behind?
Certainly looks like in the way he's rocking and rolling, but look at the way Chavez has distanced everybody here. This is a superb push by the Colombian who rides for Orica Greeners.
Okay, Quintana's at the back, we're at the front, so we're full.
So lots of interesting developments. Chavez has gone straight past that group of riders towards the front and is now leading the race.
There we go. Nicolas Roche just trying to pick it up and go with him. Quintana as well. And Tom Dumoulin, whose shoulder seems to be holding up rather well. Chavez, Dumoulin, that's Tom. And Nico Roche as well. And Quintana has been outclimbed on these ramps, and Dumoulin says no chance.
Venga, grande ahí, Esteban. Has trabajado duro para esto, ¿eh? Venga.
Who's you picked then out of these three?
Well, you have to say Chavez with the way that he came up just now, but he needs to use those steeper slopes to make his move.
Han arrancado de atrás, ¿eh? Han arrancado.
Has the man got it? Has the big man got it to deliver today? Or is it going to be the diminutive Chavez who comes home for glory? 150 metres will be their next marker. That's all they've got to deliver. That's all. It's still going to be a huge test. Nicholas Roach is there. Here comes Dumoulin. Is he going to steal it at the very last? Trying to find a bit of pace. Not to be. Chavez is going to have this. Dumoulin finally says, I can't do no more, but he's done a lot. But just not as much as Chavez.
Yeah! Hey! Great guys, Esteban just won. Great work, guys. Great work.
Sí, hemos ganado. ¡Qué bueno, Esteban!
Great work, guys. Really, really good work. Fantastic.
Sensational stuff. That took him into the leading jersey. And then that's when the Colombian crowds, I'll show the backstage tomorrow when the crowds went absolutely bananas. And literally there were a couple of hundred out the front of the bus. And we'd never had that before in the team. It was the first time we had a rock star on the bus.
I want to say I'm glad I've seen that now, because I now understand what Steve-O was going on about when he tried to talk to Froomey through the window. I never knew what he was going on. So that was what that was all about.
Yeah, that's how it all started.
I finally get it.
Car. Yeah,
I finally get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very emotional for Esteban, wasn't it? After his injury and come back and to do that for the team, it really solidified his connection to Steve-O and Mitchelton. Yeah.
I've gone podcast fishing, so I've sent one out to Esteban going, "Hey mate, we're watching this victory. Come on, jump on, have a quick chat to the detour." 2% chance. I've sent one out to.
What else is he doing today?
Oh, he's only on the bus. He's doing bugger all. I've sent one out to Hepburn and Bewley and the boys, but I think they're in the car at the moment. And Matt White, I've sent him a note as well. He might jump on, but we'll see how we go. We'll try and finish the show with just a random catch. We've got some more comments. G'day from Timaru, New Zealand. This is from Andy Hilton. Every evening, if his amazing Mitchelton pitch gets better, bring on the ANZ bubble. I'm sold. And another one from the Great Divides. Looking forward to the Stelvio tonight. Not envious of those boys descending it for 20 kilometres, 2 degrees Celsius up there. Max forecast of 4 degrees today. Scotty, as a rider, you'd be just dreading that descent, yeah?
Absolutely. Okay, it depends on your level of ability, really, because for a lot of riders, they're looking forward to it. Although today, that no one will because of the cold, and that's going to be the big challenge today. It is a long stage, 207 Ks. They go straight up a Cat 2 right from the start, so a nasty way to start a stage like this. I think it's 14 Ks long, so it's a brutal start to the day. And then, of course, the Stelvio itself, 25 Ks long, super iconic, amazing, hard, all that stuff. The forecast I saw was 0 at the top at around the time they come through, but regardless, when they start descending at 60 plus Ks an hour, the wind chill is going to be, -5 to -10 degrees at those sorts of speeds, at those temperatures. It'll warm up further they go down, of course. But that's going to put a real cold snap through the body before they then hit the final climb, which obviously will be warm again by they get to the bottom. But it's just that the temperature, fluctuations, the going so hard up on such a long climb, that's where the real test is going to be. I think the GC guys, we'll get on to what we're thinking about for the next couple of days, the final stage to Sestriere, in a moment. But this could be the final real possible hit out for anyone that wants to try and come from behind.
Boys, we've got a nibble.
Oh,
that's
what
How are you, mate?
Yeah,
hey.
We brought you on to break the news of a new signing, Ben O'Connor. You must be pretty excited.
Where's he going, mate? He had a bloody brilliant ride yesterday. Brilliant ride yesterday.
Yeah,
showed a lot of class.
We were saying that, mate. To 2 days in a row like that in the third week of a very tough Grand Tour is very impressive.
Yeah, no, it was. I was a little bit worried there when old Thomas Choo Choo de Ghent started chasing him, but he had the better of him, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, fantastic.
Thomas de Ghent. You hear all the different stories and the idiosyncrasies about him. He doesn't get massages. One of the stories last night they were talking about, I think it was Brian Smith mentioned that Brian Holm, as a DS with him years ago, said that he'd turn up to team meetings with his headphones in and just be listening to music during the team meeting. He didn't care what they said. He'd just go out and do his own thing.
Yeah, he's a special. Well, he's a special guy, and people forget that he's actually rode the Tour de France as well. So he had like 12 days at home, and now he's getting better in the third week of the the Giro. So I think it was last year. Him and Tim Wellens rode home from Lombardy back to Belgium. So they did 260k race on the Saturday, and then on Sunday they started to ride back to Belgium, just like to wind down the season. Like they rode 1,000 kilometres back home to Belgium. Oh, lovely little stopover. So, yeah, he's
do
special
30 minutes on the home trainer. Yeah, most people do 30 minutes on the home trainer to warm down after a race.
Yeah, and this was after a season. And like he probably races as much as anyone all year. Like you see him, he's at a lot of races during the season. He's at a lot of, and he spends a fair bit of time with wind in his face as well. He's a special one, that's for sure.
How much stock, getting back to Ben O'Connor, how much stock does it or weight does it have, the fact that he had such a huge day yesterday or the stage before, that he comes out and attacks with 8K to go? He's so young. Are these all the determining factors that teams look for when you are signing a rider?
I think this year is a very, very special year that, there's some teams that are definitely been holding off on signing their last one or two riders, and to be it boils back also to your manager, who's representing you with these teams, how he's selling you with his talents. But having 2 days in a row like this, going to a team at the death now in nearly in November, it certainly will help his cause from getting a ride with in a World Tour team next year.
Whitey, have you heard any rumours about NTT continuing? Because it's been, at first it was definitely over, and then I heard a couple of whispers that there could possibly be a saviour. Have you heard any more?
I certainly haven't. No, I've heard nothing about them salvaging the team. No, there was nothing around the Giro. I know that Rob Hatch doesn't mind talking it up on Eurosport that this could be the ride that saves the team, but I certainly haven't heard anything, because NTT are definitely out, and so with Alcatel, so they've lost both their major sponsors. So look, it'd be great if they could find something at the 11th hour, but it certainly doesn't look good.
It's a challenge, isn't it, with cycling? Is that what Rob's saying is, a big win like that in the Giro should be getting them enough recognition that, maybe it's worthy of a sponsorship. But it's just not the way the sport works, is it? You guys have had incredible success, and still yourselves want to have that big extra sponsor to come on board.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Well, go back to the years of HTC. HTC was the most successful team in our sport that disbanded. They couldn't find a replacement sponsor, and when you look back, even peel the skin back even further, HTC, that was when T-Mobile handed over the sponsorship to Bob Stapleton, and basically for the next 3 to 4 years, Bob ran HTC, Columbia, whatever you wanted to call it. Still have a lot of the money that the T-Mobile had given them when they broke the contract. They had a couple more years left on the contract. T-Mobile were the biggest team in our sport budget-wise at the time. And Bob, had all the success. That was Mark Cavendish in his heyday, and they still couldn't find a big multinational to take over that team.
Yeah, that first year was High Road. Wasn't even actually a sponsor at all, was it? It was just another company.
No, and I heard from a pretty good source that even when Columbia did come on board, it was like a $2 million deal, just like just an enticer, just to get them on board get them on board involved in cycling. And the problem is when you undersell the product, very, very few sponsors. You go to them, oh, well, that 2 million, can we turn that into 12 million? Well, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And I think that's what happened with HCC as well, is that they had all these, they had HCC, Columbia. A lot of people were involved in the team, but once you undersell your product, it's not easy to get it back to its real value.
Yeah. That actually happened in Cycling Australia. They had Toshiba as a sponsor of the national team years ago, got them in for a small amount of money. And then when they went back to them to say, hey, look at all the success we've had, can you increase it? They said, well, no, we paid that amount and we got that amount of coverage. Why would we increase it now? And all they did, I think, was then sponsor Anna Meares individually because she gave them the most coverage anyway.
Yeah.
Good question here, Whitey, from Sally. Can you see that question?
I can. So if nobody buys NTT's World Tour license, does that mean there will be one less team going into Grand Tours, or do they fill the space with Pro Continental? So they will give the opportunity for a Continental Pro team to come up because remember CCC is also stopping. So there's two World Tour teams at the moment are stopping. So they will give the top 2 teams in the Pro Continental level a chance. So that would be Direct Energy. And probably, no. Vanderpool's team are buying the license off CCC, so there's one that's taken up. So they will give Direct Energy or Total they're called now the chance to step up because they're the next highest in the continental rankings. And if they don't want to go up to the World Tour license or take a World Tour license, we will start one less team.
I think Wanty Goubert Circus. I think that's the team.
Wanty took CCC. You're right. Yes. So that if NTT don't exist next year, they will give either Vanderpool's team or Total the chance to step up into that 18th spot.
With Matthew's team, with Vanderpool's team, what's interesting what I'm hearing is because he's not stating that he wants to go fully road. He still wants to do his cross or a mountain bike or whatever for the Olympics. And he pretty much owns that team, from my understanding. So the sponsors are in there for him. So he's the main guy that's getting paid the most. It's all about him. Would they really want to? Because the expense to go from Pro Continental up to World Tour is significant, isn't it? So I don't know if they really want it.
Yeah, look, it's probably double the budget, close to. The big thing that interests Vanderpool and maybe that doesn't interest him next year because of the Olympics is on that team they won't be riding the Tour de France. So that guarantees them a spot in the Tour, which probably for the Olympics, I don't know what his plans are for next year if he wants to do the mountain bike as he had planned to do this year. But I think if they're talking about he wants to be on that team long term and he wants to, he is one of the best bike riders on the planet who actually can't ride the Tour de France because at the end of the day, politically, the French are always going to give wild cards to French teams. Cofidis is now in the World Tour, but Total and the other ones where they direct Vitel Concept, those guys are going to always have an upper hand of getting that wild card. So, look, it depends if Matthew has that sort of pull in that team. And he is still sticking to the plan of trying to win the Olympics and the mountain bike. Well, then the Tour de France doesn't come into the equation next year, so there's probably not too much interest because he'll get a ride. Any classic, they're guaranteed spot. They had some good starts in some smaller stage races this year, like Tirreno and some other World Tour races, which he could use for preparation. So they'll be back there again next year. So the only race that he'll miss is, and look, and maybe they could apply for a wild card in the Giro. But then again, the Italians are also going to look after the Italians, of which there's only small teams anyway. So, yeah, I suppose it depends a lot what his goals are for 2021.
I hear he said only like a week or so ago, he said his plans for next year were to do the Olympics and then to ride the Vuelta. So evidently Vuelta are going to offer them a wild card for next year.
Well, that makes more sense, and then he can stick to the classics in the spring. Summer can be all about the mountain bike Olympics, and then he's got 3 weeks after that to transition to the Vuelta, and that also makes sense because next year's World Championships are in Belgium. So I haven't seen the course, but it's an undulating course. Finishes, I think it's around Leuven, Ronsa. So it'll be a tough course, and obviously on a course like that, he'll be one of the favourites. So that the Vuelta works quite well in his preparation to win the Worlds as well next year.
All right.
There you go.
Dan, we've lost you, Dan.
So my mic was muted. That's the first. I did it to myself. I was wondering, Whitey, in the whole COVID climate, it's obviously you're having to make money stretch further. What are some of the big nice to haves that you can't simply do moving forward until this sort of thing clears up, particularly around budgets? Does it affect like training camps? What are the things that get eliminated when you have to tighten
I think the first
strings?
one, which we're dealing with at the moment, is we had an all-in camp planned for straight after the Vuelta, and I think people are a little bit. For us here in Europe, the most dangerous probably part of getting around is travel. So obviously sitting on planes with people that you don't know who aren't getting tested in confined areas, that's not ideal. And then also we were going to do the camp in Girona, and actually because Catalonia has quite a high cases, they've actually restricted the meeting of people to groups of 6. And so any camp we had would have to be really modified as well. So that's one thing that we're going to have to make a final decision on by the end of the week. We might be doing it a little bit different. But also there's been a lot of teams this year who have really held off on re-signing their riders because, if this year had gone pear-shaped and the Tour de France didn't happen, that would have really hit a lot of teams very, very hard because, that sponsor that was paying $15 or $12 million would have gone back to the team and said, look, we've got a deal for next year for this much money, but, we didn't race the Tour. We didn't race the Giro. We haven't got our money's worth out of the team this year. And how about we call that $12 million $8 next year? And where's that money come from? It comes out of riders' salaries. It's 70% of our budget is salaries. And that would have come from budget. That could have come from riders' salaries. So, and until the Tour, the rider market was very, very dead until the Tour de France was completed. The big stars were locked in, and a lot of young talent was locked in, but everyone in between, it was very, very quiet. And only post Tour has there been teams re-signing and filling rosters. And I think we're in a fortunate situation where we know our budget for next year already, and obviously with the difficulties we had, we offered everyone a contract from our current roster. And so we've got very, very minimal changes for next year. We've got some great add-ons, but we've got a lot of continuity going forward, which is good.
Do you think it also makes it hard, given the sport? It's so hard to get sponsors, and when you do get a budget, you have to spend it. I mean, this notion of having a kitty or putting money away for a rainy day, I mean, it's near impossible in cycling.
It is because of the business model, because of no television revenue, because there is money in there, and the UCI are using it against the Velon teams in a legal case. So that's worked out. That's worked out well. No, look, it's the business until the business model changes with television rights, especially. With the model, we're going to be the same situation. We're relying nigh on 100% of our existence to sponsorship, keeping sponsors happy and giving them exposure, which has been the traditional way cycling has been. The difference is that our budgets now, compared to what they were even 10 years ago, are massively larger.
Good. One thing, Whitey, we're just talking about the Vuelta and the situation in France. So, is the Vuelta still going to go into France for the Tourmalet?
I haven't spoken to Julian or Matt this morning, but I've heard nothing in the contrary. You saw that what's happened there with Saturday stage into France in the Giro has been modified, which changes the race dramatically. But I haven't heard anything about the Tourmalet. I guess they will find out pretty soon. But it's also the person who's made the decision for the Giro was the mayor of Briançon, so that's a different region. So I don't know if that region. In the Pyrenees. I don't know. It's obviously a lot less populated area, so it might be a lot easier to shut down the Tourmalet climb for fans, for example. It could be a lot easier, and that mayor may be a lot more sympathetic to the Vuelta going ahead rather than the mayor of Briançon, the Giro going ahead through their territory.
Yeah. Scotty?
That puts So for the Giro, it puts a lot more pressure on today's stage, doesn't it? Because that stage to Sestariere did have it. I think the first climb, which is the Col della Anello, which I think is 2,600 or 2,700.
No,
that's today.
That's today's stage.
So,
that's today's stage.
So stage 20. Stage 20, if you've got
sorry.
it.
I don't have it.
So it's 2,600 metre climb, which takes them across the border, and then it was the Col d'Izoard, and then up to Sestariere. So 3 massive climbs. I don't know what they're going to do now, but
now what they're doing, Scott, is they're doing 3 laps of Sestariere. They're doing a circuit, so they're doing like a flat start going into Sestariere, and they're doing 3 times Sestariere from an easier side. So what it's done, it's taken a day that was going to be 5,000 meters of climbing is now 3,200. So it totally changes the Giro, and the Giro will be decided today on the Stelvio. There's no doubt about it. If they cannot offload Almeida on the Stelvio today, the Giro will be won by him. The Sestariere on the wheels 3 times, you will not drop him. I don't think you'll drop him. I think today Sunweb have to put the hammer down on the Stelvio. And I hear that it's a very good chance of rain, so they're going to have a wet descent off the Stelvio, which will always make for excitement. And then the final climb to the line today after the Stelvio is not that hard. It's a climb that's the women used last year when Annemiek van Vleuten won one of the stages in the women's Giro. It's a fast climb. Again, on the wheels, it won't be too bad. In sections, big chainring. So the Stelvio, it's do or die on the Stelvio this afternoon.
Oh, exciting. So the Sestariere stage would be a great one for spectators, but we're not allowed to have them because they're coming up 3 times.
We've got another question. Scott Davies for you, Waddy. Do you think Esteban will get back to challenging for GC Grand Tours? Looks good 2 days in.
Look, I hope so. I think we're going to see a lot out of from this Vuelta. I think having done the Tour de France, having a month of recovery, I don't think the preparation could be better. I think you see the guys mixing it there in the first few days of the Vuelta, and all of them have done the Tour. And I think not doing GC at the Tour de France, that was the plan for Esteban at the Tour de France. He was only going in there for stages. So I think having that load 4 weeks ago is a good one. And I think if we can see him ride GC at the Vuelta, well then it's a very, very good sign for 2021.
Yep. Anything you want to add, boys, before we let Waddy go?
Nah, great stuff, mate.
Yeah, excited for tonight. It should be great.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one on the Stelvio today. So, and the person who will be doing the damage will be Jai Hindley. Jai is the one who will be make or break for Wildo Kelderman today, and it's going to be exciting because at the other day, Jai was incredible on the climb there where they split the race apart. And if anyone's going to do the damage, it'll be Jai. So it's a big day for Jai today, and Wilco Kelderman's chances of winning the Giro.
Fantastic.
Wow. Got something to look forward to. Thanks for joining us again, Whitey. We'll check in again soon. I'll hopefully give you more than 30 seconds notice.
Thanks, bud.
No worries, guys.
Good on you, mate. Matthew White, absolute legend. Now, I've got a question for you, John, and you love it because it means you can talk about yourself and old stories. It's from Stuart McIntosh. He said, John's stories about the Munich games are fantastic to hear. However, we have not heard him say much about how the terrorist attack affected him and the games in general. Would be interesting to hear more. So, Johnny, can you tell us a bit more about that period? And you were staying next to the Israeli team, were you?
Well, there was one. There was us. Then there was one country in between, and then the Israelis. So we were very, very close. So we went to bed. We'd raced the team time trial, the 100K team time trial early. I think it was the first day actually, and then the road race was towards the end of the games. So we went to bed thinking we were going to be racing the next day, to be woken up by our managers telling us, hang on, guys, everything's been put on hold. There's been a terrorist attack. And I actually remember thinking, what are you talking about? It didn't ring a bell like it does now because there hadn't been anything like that in the world, of sport especially. But even around the world, terrorist attacks weren't something that happened back in 1972. So what are we talking? He had to explain it to us. So then, we were watching a lot of it happened on television. It was all there. So I remember actually going down. There was a level underneath. I remember walking across there where the buses used to come in to a guy grabbing hold of me. It turned out to be a French policeman, and because there was a guy with a ski mask on. I wonder what he was. I thought he was a burns victim or something. It was one of the terrorists. So I actually didn't go far off, walk in amongst it myself. And so that all happened over the next 2 days. We watched a lot of it. We actually, from our balcony at the back of our building, we watched the terrorists get into the chopper with the hostages. We saw that all happen like 24 hours later or 20 hours later, whenever it was. So, and the games were stopped for a couple of days. So it was very traumatic, actually. It was absolutely terrible. And my eldest, my firstborn, was born that day as well. So all communications were cut. So I didn't even find out I was a dad for a couple of days. So Lisa was born on the 6th of September in 1972. So, pretty traumatic. And then, of course, we all raced a couple of days later, and Clyde Sefton did an amazing ride and got the silver medal. So it was a fantastic effort for Clyde. But yeah, very, very traumatic experience.
It must be. It's a couple of things there, John. Like just the fact that when you're in an Olympic Village, it's got a really interesting and quite unique atmosphere that you don't know other athletes that are walking past, but they're all there for the same reasons, and there's a real a bond between everybody, regardless of whether you've met them or not. So that would have been incredibly sobering to see, the fatalities when they did happen, which ended up being live on television. So that it's hard for any of the athletes to get back up and compete to their best after that, Johnny. The Munich 6 Day, so the velodrome that we had for the Munich 6 Day event that I used to race every year is in the Olympic Park where the stadium is, etc. And the accommodation that we would always stay in was in the hotel, which is in the village. And I would often, because it wasn't too far to go, it was November, so it was cold, but if the weather was okay, I'd always walk across to the Olympic Park and to the velodrome each day, and typically walk back again. So you'd have to actually walk through the village. So we weren't staying typically in the village where you stayed, John, but you'd have to walk through. And because I'd seen the footage so many times over the years, I remember the very first time I walked through, it was this sort of sobering moment where I realised, oh wow, this is it. This is where it happened. And I actually made the effort to always walk back and forth because I don't know, it was my own kind of little memorial walk that I did every day in tribute. Yeah. It was very sobering. Yeah.
And the fact that it was playing out on TV, like even back in 72, I mean, that just added another level. It's not like you're reading about it.
You know what? It was so badly handled. Like, everyone thinks of, German efficiency and whatever, but they'd gone the other way at that stage because they were still sort of a bit of a hangover from, Germany in the Second World War, even though we're a long while after. They were wanting this to be a special friendly games. And so, of course, they weren't prepared for anything like this. So what happened when I mentioned it was on TV, they decided to send some crack, their best police in to try and get the terrorists. So they were climbing up the side of the building, and the terrorists were watching it on television and could see them coming. And so they realised, oh, hang on. They gave up their own tactic. It was terrible. And the same thing happened when the terrorists then flew by chopper to Munich airport. We're supposed to have a plane waiting and all of that. They then announced what was happening on the television. So everyone started driving towards the airport just to get close to see what was happening, which blocked the roads. And so the special military with special vehicles and that couldn't get there in time to do their planned attack. This is all in that great documentary about it. It's just was the greatest debacle of all time.
Have you seen the film with Eric Banner in it? Munich?
Yeah.
Because I think Mossad, which is the Israeli sort of secret police crack unit, I don't know if they were formed before that or it came from what happened there, that they formed that the Mossad, which are like their world's best in terms of tactical policing.
Well, just on a more positive stuff, right? I will never experience it in my lifetime, and that is, what does it feel like to get the call up to compete in Olympics, to know that you are representing your country? I mean, that must be a surreal experience.
Well, I can tell you, it's almost as exciting as the notification that just came through that my Chinese is about to arrive, because they're about an hour late, but the notification just popped up. So
Hey,
almost that
on the
exciting.
flip side, it's worse when the Chinese arrives too quick.
I looked at, and yeah, we won't go into too much detail, but I had two Olympic campaigns. One was as a kid in 1988. I was 18. I had no idea what I was doing. Didn't know anything really about elite sport. It was just told to us what we had to do and what you had to do for training, etc. And I came out of the junior ranks, won a few things, got picked up by the Institute of Sport, went to the World Championships the year before the Olympics as an under-19, but went to the Elite World Championships, went okay. The next year was the Olympics. They're like, oh, you might as well go there as well. Cool, off we go. Got a bronze medal in the team pursuit. Had no idea what I was really doing and what it's supposed to take to be an elite athlete. It took me a long time to actually work that out. I was naive. I was immature. I was probably stubborn around that period. So it took me a long time to really understand it. I thought I was going to go to the next Olympics, have another go, maybe another one after that. I'm 18 with a bronze medal. Sure, I can win a gold at some point. But I didn't get a go in the next games. I didn't get a go in the next one after that, 96. And it took 12 years to have another shot at it. So by the time I went to Sydney Olympics, I'd been a professional for a number of years. I was a mature athlete. I understood, what it takes to be the best you can be. So yeah, completely different scenarios, medals in both, but it's just a tale of two games, that's for sure.
Well, for me, I was never a mature athlete, but I went to 72 Olympics, as we've just spoken about. But then I turned pro in 74, and back in my day, once you turned pro, you couldn't go to the games, so that was it. You were banned. So some sports allowed it, but not cycling, and it didn't change till in the 90s when they allowed pros to compete. So my best years as a cyclist were two Olympics that I missed, but it was special, I can tell you. And the Commonwealth Games as well, because even though the Commonwealth Games now doesn't rate as high, when I was a youngster and went to Commonwealth Games, that was amazing. Australia were in love with the Com Games back then. And I just remember them being two of the highlights of my life, going and competing for Australia at the Games.
Why has the Commonwealth Games dropped off as much as it has? Let's be honest. It's like the Logies.
I think it's because there's just so much else on in world sport now. The World Championships and all of so much on television these days in all sports, and so the Commonwealth Games gold medal, that just doesn't have the prestige that it once had.
Yeah, the world has just gotten smaller in every way, hasn't it? So if you're watching. Like if you go back to when, say, the Commonwealth Games was probably at its peak, I'd say up to maybe 94, I think. Back then the world, just seemed, it was very, very different. You weren't watching, we weren't watching live sport like we do. If you want to watch the best racing in the world now, you just, jump on telly and watch the Tour de France and the Giro and all these things. So anything that, and I guess that creates an understanding of what the very best is. It's probably the same if you look at something like, rugby union, the drop-off and decline in rugby union as the NRL has grown and AFL has grown as well. The world's just gotten so much smaller now, and people they just demand the absolute best. And they, if you're only racing against, some of the smaller countries, it's not the same as the Olympics. People understand that more now, unfortunately.
All right. Well, before we go, a few comments. Wendy Superman, commentators on Vuelta said last night they're not going into France. Then she says, commentators last night said Giro not going into France. Then the Will Wizard comes over the top and says, hey, Wendy Superfan, if you listen to Hatch or Kirby, 90% of the time they talk rubbish.
Don't know about that. Hatch is brilliant. Hatch is brilliant. Carlton and Kirby is entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the stage last night, yesterday, that Ben O'Connor won. Johnny started in Bassano del Grappa.
Yeah, started. I've got it looking at a photo right in front of Dara McQuaid's house. So he looked down over. He probably had something to do with it, I guess. And I've got all these colour photos. I should have sent them across to you, Dan. I didn't think of that. And you could have had them up on the show. But anyway.
Yeah, so Dara, is he the general manager now? Is he?
He's the chairman.
Or chairman of Mitchelton, Scott. Fantastic Irishman. But Pisano was also the World Championships Road and Track, 1985, where Joop Zoetemelk from the Netherlands won the road race at the age of 38, which back then was quite extraordinary. A lot of riders used to retire at 32, 33 because the money wasn't there for to keep going for an extra $1 million a year for the next 5 or 6 years. Yeah. So Zoetemelk was quite an oddity to go through to 38 and win the Worlds ahead of jumped away at the end, and Greg LeMond won the sprint. Marino Argentin. Yeah. I actually bought that World Championship package, the road and the track, on VHS video when I was a kid. To what, because you couldn't see it any other way, so you had to order it. And it was Robert Burns Senior out of Bendigo, and his teammate and his son
Burnsy.
Rob Burnsy, yep. And so Burnsy and Burnsy. So they used to get all the videos organised out of Europe, and I bought some 6-day videos and a bunch of other things. And that's the way we used to watch our European racing. Or either that, or you waited till the magazine came out a couple of months later and read about it.
That's awesome. All right, fellas, anything to add before we go?
Well, as we heard from Whitey, big stage tonight, so much, and it was always going to be, but significantly more so now for anyone that's trying to win the.
So we haven't given our tips, have we? Put the two maps up of the World Tour.
I didn't type them up because I couldn't be stuffed.
No.
Who do you want?
No. But put the stage. Put the Giro stage up, and
Giro. And do you want me to rattle up some odds, or you're right?
Well, no. We can talk about it because I forget about what they say are the odds. This is going to be exactly as Whitey was saying, the GC stage. So I reckon that that they will go well. I'm going to pick Kelderman to win the stage. Actually.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
So my pick on that one. Yep.
What do you reckon, Scooter?
Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm going to go something strange. I'm going to say Nibali will win the stage, but it won't really make much difference to the overall because Kelderman and the guys will still be there, just to be different.
Yeah. Okay.
And for the Vuelta, who do you think? Roglic?
No, I reckon.
No, I think a breakaway. I think a breakaway will get up the road, and who do we reckon? Someone I
reckon Jose Herrera from Cofidis, Spanish rider, should have been second in the Spanish championships this year. Dropped his chain in the sprint against Luis Leon Sanchez, who should have been second, but he ended up, I don't know where he ended in the end, had to walk across the line. But he's far enough behind on GC to possibly then be allowed to get into a break, because this is now the challenge they've got, because they've only had 2 stages. So some of the guys that can climb are still only 3, 4, 5 minutes down. It's a bit risky to let those guys come back into the race. So you need to be 7, 8 minutes or so before I reckon they let a group, let someone like that go in the group. And he's
how far down is McElney? He's one I'd pick. I know he's lost a few minutes the first day. I think he's probably 7 or 8 minutes down. Is he?
He is 15th at 150.
Oh, well, he's definitely not going anywhere.
Too close. So Herrera's 27th, but at 9 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to look up his odds. Herrera is $276 to 1.
Okay, worth a bet.
Yeah,
270 for stage 3.
Okay,
this could be the greatest tip in the history of sports punting, folks.
Have we got any money in our account left?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Hey, what they got on Vlasov? Vlasov.
Alexander Vlasov. Let's have a look here.
He didn't look good. That's why he's down now. He's at 5.5 minutes. He's been excellent throughout the year, and he moved up 17 places on yesterday's stage.
I'm still not finding him on the list.
VLA, SOV.
$41.
Not bad.
Well, there you go.
Little bit on him, a little bit on Herrera.
Okay. If Herrera gets up, we will be using that promo for about a week. And people
we
just
didn't
expect
actually.
it, of course,
We never even mentioned Solaire's win last night, which was very impressive because he did a lot of the work on the final climb. Actually got just distant a fraction over the top, and then came back and went straight by and descended brilliantly to take the stage. It was a very, very fine effort for his first Grand Tour stage win, which surprised me because he's been around for a while. He won Paris-Nice, but he's never won a stage in a Grand Tour. And he was really still smarting over getting called back. Remember last year in the Vuelta when he looked like winning the stage and the team called him back, which was stupid. And he wasn't happy about it. He was swearing as we were watching the coverage. But no, fantastic win for a talented young man.
It was. Hey, look, I don't know what the distance of go back to the Giro with the Sestriere stage now being changed. I'm not sure what the overall distance of that is, but what it was supposed to be was from the rest day, because the stage lengths this final week is just incredible. So 230 Ks was stage 16, then 203, 207, 260 Ks, the flat stage of stage 19 before Sestriere 200 Ks. So that's 1,100 or so kilometres in 5 days of racing for the final week of the Giro before they get to the time trial. Absolutely brutal.
Sounds like an old Sun Tour, mate.
Yeah, well, that would have been 2 to 3 stages a day, probably further.
Now, Scotty Stewart McIntosh, he's all chips in. Harada.
Oh, good. All right. Well, yeah, no pressure. I don't bet, so shouldn't listen to me. But anyway, why not?
Mate, Iffy, we're going to load up. All right.
We are. Sounds
now,
good.
Tomorrow's episode, it's all about priorities, and John needs to get on the cans. So we're going to record this show earlier, probably around 11 o'clock, Iffy, 10 to 11.
Yeah.
And so it'll be up online by about lunchtime. Well, we'll do it live. So
we'll put it up. Are we? We're going to do it live? And then
yeah, we can do it live.
Okay.
Well, if we don't have any pre-cut interviews, we can just do it live, and then it's
Who
done.
are you going to get on for that time? The Europeans will all be.
Don't expect too much special guests. It'll be just like 3 of us talking absolute gibberish about what happened the night before. We'll just pinch and steal and pillage anything I can off YouTube. We'll do a detour flashback. We'll fill it with enough content where your expectations, if they're low enough, they will be met.
Well, I'm learning this as the listeners are as well.
Yeah, well, we were just chatting before we went live.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I do have a ride organised, so.
What time's that?
Be, leave at 8, and it's going to be, I'm super fit these days, so it could be a 6-hour ride. No, 3.5 hours or something like that. But
we could fit it in. Like, just go full gas. Yeah. Just put it in the big dog. You'd be back by 11.
Yeah, the full gas. Maybe I was a V8 in the past, but
we'll start at 11,
a few cylinders.
And you can jump in when you get back. Don't worry about getting showered. Just jump online as soon as you're back.
In your kit. All right.
Yeah, that'll be great.
So tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Lower your expectations, but we're going to have a lot of fun. So we'll see you then, guys, for a special episode. Cheers.